The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
This meeting of the Starkville Board of Alderman will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance and be followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have before you a copy of the modified written agenda. Are there any proposed revisions? Alderman Dibble.
Under Building Codes and Planning Department, I'd like to move item I to the consent.
Item B1.
I'm sorry, 1. B1.
All right, are there any conditions with that item?
With the conditions as stated in the packet.
All right, Alderman Dumas's proposed revision is to move item 11B1, the consideration of the approval of P&Z item number CU 10-08 to the consent agenda with the conditions as provided by staff. Is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter has been moved to the consent agenda. Further proposed revision.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things. One observation. I don't have any problem, I guess, with this parking garage use agreement. One thing I do want to say, just as a housekeeping measure, I'm prepared to move this to the consent agenda if the city attorney is prepared to recommend an approval. But again, I am very, very respectful requesting for matters of this substantive magnitude to be put in our agenda packet before we sit here. These things are too important and they're too substantive for me to vote upon, and certainly I think all of us at the table need to be given professional deference so we can read and consider this thing. This is something very important. We have time after time again gotten these matters that deals with this cotton mill. So I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I have no objection to this going on the consent agenda. If we can say that that on F, this is item F on the board business, and we can say consideration of the approval of the parking garage use agreement with the Cotton Mill Conference Center Hotel as recommended by the city attorney. If he's prepared to say that, we'll put that on the consent agenda. Is he prepared to say that?
Yeah, I'm recommending approval of that. And Alderman Perkins, if I could just touch on the timing briefly. We were waiting on the counsel for the developer to sign off on my recommendation to strike a sentence in Section 7. The original Section 7 referenced an assignment contract.
Okay.
That assignment contract has not been put into effect. I thought that could open us up to the argument that we had approved the assignment contract even though we haven't approved it yet. So I asked them to strike that sentence, and they agreed to strike it at about 2:30 this afternoon. That's the late ad.
Okay, so you recommending this?
I am.
Mr. Mayor, if we can add item 7 and just say as recommended by our city attorney, and I have no problem with it going to consent agenda. On this item F on the board business.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Perkins is to move item 10F, the consideration of the approval of the parking garage use agreement, and that is the draft dated 2/1/11. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct, Alderman
Yes,
Perkins?
sir.
The parking garage use agreement dated 2/1/11 with the Conference Center and Hotel LLC. Alderman Perkins, that's the proposed revision?
Oh, that's one of them, yes, sir.
All right. Is there any objection to that proposed provision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item 10F has been placed on consent.
The next matter, Mr. Mayor, we can just kind of going back and forth to personnel number 4. I have no objection to request authorization to hire Kurt Vickers as a full-time temporary firefighter with benefits, because the agenda is incorrectly stated. There's no vacant position. These agendas need to be stated correctly when they're presented to us. It's not correctly. So but when you read the packet, is what I just said does what they ask. But we want to hire Kurt Vickers as a full-time firefighter on a temporary basis with benefits. That's what he's proposing to do. So I want to put that on the consent agenda.
And Chief, does that meet with the specs that you need?
Yes.
And I got 3 more matters.
Hold on one second.
So the only thing I added is a full-time temporary basis with benefits.
So the proposed revision is to authorize the hire of Kurt Vickers as a full-time firefighter on a temporary basis with full benefits. Alderman Perkins, is that the proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item H14 on page 4 has been moved, or excuse me, item H4 on page 4 has been moved to the consent agenda.
The next matter, Mr. Mayor, is H1, is to put that on consent agenda with the names that's listed in the packet from the fire department.
All right, so the proposed revision is to place the approval of the candidates for promotion in the fire department as presented by staff on the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, just 2 more items and I'm going to yield. I want to remove item number C under board business from the consent agenda, item C.
Okay, and the item 10C on page 3, the consideration of the authorizing of an additional block of 40 hours of synergetics has been removed from the consent agenda.
And
Please make note of the change.
Mr. Mayor, and one last item, and I'm going to say this with great professionalism and respect. This is just a matter of experience, what I'm going to say here, and no disrespect to the Gentlemen's Committee from Ford. On the agenda tonight is a recommendation from the Technology Committee, and certainly we appreciate all the committee's work. But the point that I want to make on this particular matter is that the full board conducted the interviews of the applicants for this position. In light of the fact that the full board conducted the interviews, it is just not standard for a committee to make a recommendation to the board. In other words, it's like, board, this is who you vote for. Normally, it's best to do this type of thing when the committee conduct the interviews and the full board did not conduct the interviews. So in other words, if the Technology Committee had conducted the interviews, then we should have a recommendation from the Technology Committee. Of course, this is not legally incorrect, but since the full board conducted the interviews, then it is my respectful opinion. Of course, this is not to slight anyone, I'm not trying to lecture to anyone, but the best way to handle this is just to go ahead and make your motion for whomever you're going to hire, and that's how you would do that. So basically what has happened here, obviously, the full board conducted the interviews the last meeting, then the Technology Committee obviously met subsequent to that, and then now they're saying, well, board, this is who we're recommending. Well, the board already know who, in my opinion, wants to vote upon. So I think that the best way to proceed, and the board may think different, but I thought I just want to share that wealth of knowledge to you. But the best way to proceed would be just to go ahead and put a motion out there in second, and just let it be up or down vote, and whatever the majority is, that's how it should prevail. But I thought I'd say that, but it's nothing that I'm going to lose any sleep over as to what the board may do here, because I already know how I'm going to vote. But I just wanted just to share that just for informational purposes. And I thought, and we just try to work together. I'm not trying to be here to cause any trouble, any problem, but we just want to work and learn together. And I just thought that would be the best way to proceed. But if the board deems otherwise, we don't have to have a lot of discussion on it, but I just thought I'd point that out. So that's the last matter that I want to address. And one other thing, Mr. Mayor, as to matter, Roman number 9B, the discussion of setting a time, I guess we can wait till that comes, but I'm prepared to put that on the consent agenda if we can meet an hour early before the next meeting, because I'm not going to be available to meet before the next meeting. So I just wanted to toss that out in case the 5 of us who are going to participate could meet at 4:30 next week, then we could put that on the consent agenda. But
Is
if
that a
not-
proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
All right, the proposed revision is to set the time for interviews for the Starkville School Board candidates for 4:30 on the afternoon of February 15th, 2011. Is that the proposed revision to item 9B on page 2?
Yes, sir, because we only have 4 candidates, so I think 15 minutes should be plenty.
So that would be setting the time at 4:30 on February 15th, 2011, and placing on consent. Is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter, as modified, has been placed on the consent agenda. Are there any further proposed revisions?
Item B under board business. Any issue with placing that on consent?
General, let's hold it off. It'll pass, but let's hold it off.
And the city attorney also has a modification to how that needs to be approved, if it is approved.
Does he have the modification in writing so we can note ahead of time?
I don't have a modification to that.
That was the RFQ.
RFQ, no, it's not RFQ.
No,
No, that was
B,
the Maple
the
Street flooding.
Maple Street.
Oh, I've got you.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have no objection to it, but I want to go on consent. I got a couple things I want to say on the discussion, but then we won't spend too much time on it.
That's fine.
Okay, so item 10B on page 3 will remain on the regular agenda. Are there any further proposed revisions?
Mayor,
Alderman Carver.
under personnel, I think it was just a typo, but number 2 is request approval for the city engineer's educational expense reimbursement, and it was supposed to be $1,400, not $2,400, if that's correct. So I would just like to change that from place it on, leave it on consent, but just with a not to exceed amount of $1,400.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the amount's been changed to $1,400 from $2,400. Further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised would be in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Corey to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second? Motion been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes and the agenda's been approved. And we do not have the consent agenda on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda just adopted to add an item for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Alderman Vaughn to add to the consent agenda immediately following the approval, or to add to the official agenda immediately following the approval of the agenda, the approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And now you have before you the approval of the consent agenda as revised. Is there any objection to the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised is approved. That will carry us to the approval of the Board of Alderman minutes. And the first set of minutes you have before you are from December 21st, 2010. Discussion. Alderman Corey.
Mayor, I would move approval of the December 21st, 2010 minutes with the corrections to items 23 and 24 that the city clerk provided in writing.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve of the December 21st, 2010 recess minutes from. Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve of the minutes from the December 21st, 2010 recess meeting with corrections as provided by the city clerk. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. Alderman Cordy, you wish to speak on the merits?
Do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none.
I've got one. You said
Alderman
that
Carter.
number 23 and 24? Well, they're not on the back of this. Is that, I mean, can you tell me what that?
Alderman Carver, what happened is item 23 was about the Frank Jones variance request,
Okay.
and there were conditions attached to that variance request.
Yes, sir.
And in the original packet, the conditions for the Reed Place subdivision were inserted into the Frank Jones section, just a copy of the mistake.
Okay.
So the city clerk has made that correction to put the Frank Jones conditions and then move Reed Place conditions to where they go in item 24.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the December 21st, 2010 minutes. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request for the approval of the January 4, 2011 minutes. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the minutes from the January 4, 2011 regular meeting of the Starkville Board of Alderman. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request for the consideration of the approval of the minutes from January 18th, 2011. Discussion?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of the minutes from the January 18, 2011 recess meeting of the Starkville Board of Alderman. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, Alderman Sistrunk.
I just wanted to thank the city clerk for an exceptional job of getting caught up and ahead on the minutes. That's amazing work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that will carry us to comments by the mayor and board. And I have a couple of comments. First, I would like to introduce the newest employee in the city workforce. That is Benny Williams. Benny Williams is our newest member of the street department, having been recently hired as a maintenance worker. Before joining the city of Starkville, Benny was a car detailer, having his own business, working for DRM specialists to make sure used cars look brand new before being sold. Benny is originally from Starkville and attended Alexander High School. He is the son of Miss Helen Williams and has three brothers, Clyde, Roosevelt, and Kent Williams. One sister, Margaret Triplett. He also has a daughter, Venetia Williams. Benny and his family attend St. Matthew's Temple in West Point. When Benny isn't busy working, he takes care of his mother and enjoys cleaning cars and cutting grass. Benny also enjoys a challenge, such as restoring old cars. Please join me in welcoming Benny to the city workforce. And I would also like to take a moment of privilege this evening and recognize Kelly Daniels. Many of you may know that Kelly has recently decided to leave the Starkville Daily News for a job in Birmingham. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize this occasion, as Kelly is very much a part of city government, has been a part of it as she has covered the city with the paper for, I believe, 5 years now.
It'll be 4.
4 years, yeah. So she predates many of us that are now elected officials. And I have memories myself of when I first got involved in city government, getting to know Kelly as one of the first people around city government. Kelly, we wish you nothing but the best in the future, and we thank you for the time that you've given us.
Thank you so much.
All right, those are all the comments that I have, and we have next schedule the recognition of our Employee of the Month.
Mr. Sykes, you want to join me up here? I guess we can do it with you. Sure. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce our Employee of the Month for January 2011, Mr. Tony Sykes, who works as an equipment operator in the street department. He's worked for the city of Starkville since February of 1997. He's a proven leader and he takes his responsibilities seriously. During our recent ice and snow weather events, Mr. Sykes went above and beyond his regular duties. He and several other street department employees spent a day salting bridges through the city before the storm hit. After they finished, Mr. Sykes decided to monitor some bridges that were previously salted. He found that some of them were starting to ice, and he began to reapply salt. He worked selflessly into the night and then proceeded to make his way home, about 30 miles from Starkville. The next day, non-essential personnel were not required to report to work, but Mr. Sykes traveled that distance back to Starkville and began the process of clearing bridges and roadways. He created safer road conditions for the citizens of Starkville, as well as reducing vehicle damage. His actions may have prevented personal injuries. The city of Starkville and the street department are proud to recognize Tony Sykes as the Employee of the Month for January 2011.
You got it back up.
Okay, great.
Do we have any further comments by the members of the board? Do we have any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to make comments this evening may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin, Ward 7. I want to recognize the Vice Mayor Sistrom and Alderman Vaughn.
Mr. Turner.
The citizens have a few concerns. The citizen is getting quite concerned about our 389 and the garden spot, Mount Peter. Traffic gets pretty fast and quick right there. We have a light at the Calvary Baptist Church, but we would like to try to slow that traffic down, that won't nobody get hit. Our next concern is Carver Drive. We hadn't heard nothing in a while, but this rain and stuff that we're getting making people nervous. I have some more pictures, and this is the route that I take into town and conditions that I have to be confronted with, as well as other people that jog. And I will leave them, and I won't need them back.
Mr. Mayor, just a question to Mr. Turner. May I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Turner, exactly what are you talking about on 39 as to what you're proposing for a light to be needed?
No, I said that. At the Calvary Baptist Church,
Yep.
you know, like, but
Yeah.
no, at the garden spot,
Okay.
it's hard for people to, you know, they be hoping that people slow down. That
So you saying a light needs to be put at that church?
know that the traffic needs to kind of slow down
Okay, all right.
so that can get in and out of the garden spot.
Yeah, 'cause I know the speed limit's probably about 30, 35 there now. Okay, I just wanted to know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Because one last thing I know, if the board did proceed with that, we would have to get the highway department approval. That's what had to happen at the light over there at the intersection of 39 and 39 and Hospital Road. Because anytime we want to do something on the highway, we had to get highway approval just for informational purposes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any further citizen comments tonight?
I would like to say good evening to the mayor, to the board, and my name is Dorothy Isaac, and of course, Attorney Perkins is my alderman.
Good evening.
And I would just like to say, today as I come to you with a problem that's heavy on my heart. I'm a voter here in Starkville, real active in what I do in my community. I had an incident, well, my sister had an incident, and it was concerning a car that we drive. And she was stopped by a policeman. His name was Woolard. That's all I could get. I can't say officer who, but I know his last name was Woolard. You know, and I went up and talked to some of the people in the office about this. He stopped her because of the tent that was in the car. You know, he backed up behind traffic, in back. She was going down by Lowe's. He backed up and then back and come back and then come back and decided he wanted to look into the car. You know, but the sticker, I think all of us know why stickers are on our cars. And I do try to keep mine up because I am an abiding citizen. I would just like to say, we have officers that, yeah, they do excellent things here in Starkville, and I'm really proud of it. But when somebody come back and do that, come back and look in your car like that, makes you think you're a criminal or something. You know, it makes you think that you're deep-rooted. When you can read, I know they can read because that's what they're supposed to be learning, you know, before they even become a police. So I would just like to say, if we could, we're trying to build a new building for the police. That's what we're trying to do. Let's think about some of these professional reasons and people that we got working up there for us. Because this was very upsetting, and when we went to the office, we sort of like got a little laugh, you know, behind the office doors. They talked to you like you were going to pull them out. If I had wanted to, you know, I would have went back there. But, you know, let's be professionalism in what we're going to do if we're talking about building something here in Starkville. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaac. Do we have any further citizen comments? Are there any further citizen comments this evening? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances, and we have two public appearances scheduled tonight. The first is a report from Judge Rodney Favor on municipal court.
Mayor and Board, it's a pleasure to be able to present the annual report for the municipal court for the city of Starkville. I can tell you and assure you that municipal court is one that you and the citizens can be proud of. My court administrator is not here this evening. He had an unfortunate accident on a baseball field, so he has to undergo an MRI this week, so he's not able to help me. But as he always does, he prepared you a detailed report of the activities of municipal court. And as you can see, if you look at the bar graphs regarding the number of cases, you can see that in certain areas the cases are up, in certain areas the cases are down. But overall, the number of cases for the year 2010 are down 22%. That's good. That's good news. More good news is, despite the fact that the case count is down 22% over 2,000 cases, the amount of fines that were collected through the hard work of the people in the court, probation officers, is only down $1,300 for the year. And I attribute that to the hard work of the people that work under me in municipal court, and their tireless efforts on the behalf of the citizens of this town and yourselves. I'll be glad to answer any question that you might have. Alderman Carver?
First of all, thank you for what you do for the city.
Well, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm blessed to have it.
That's pretty interesting. You know, if the total case count is down by 22%, but your collections is only down by 1,300, is that due to your office maximizing on the fines that they're owed, or is that for a higher court? I mean, is it higher cost of you know?
No, Alderman, I attribute it, as I say, to the hard work of court personnel. I give them all the credit. But we have implemented some policies and procedures in municipal court since I took over that I feel have helped us keep a handle on the fines that are owed to the citizens of this town. And so I feel it's a combination of those two things that's contributed to us to be able to present this report the way that we have tonight to you.
Thank you.
Further questions for Judge Faber? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board for Judge Faber? Any further questions or comments?
Well, that's good when your bosses don't have any questions. I'll take my leave. Thank you for the
Judge Faber.
opportunity.
Thanks, Judge Faber.
Thank you, Judge.
Now we have the annual presentation from the Administrative Hearing Officer, Jenny Turner.
Mayor, Alderman, I'm Jenny Turner, and to my right is Bill Green, and he serves as our administrator. And Mr. Green does an excellent job of processing all of our tickets and scheduling all our hearings. In 2010, the Administrative Division scheduled hearings for 100 cases. Of those, approximately 100 just came in and paid their fines prior to the hearing. We conducted 14 hearings in 2010 with police officers serving as prosecutors for the false alarm cases, the animal control officers serving as prosecutors in the animal neglect cases, and the code enforcement employees serving as prosecutors on the code violations. And in your packet, there is a graph on what our caseload is made up of. And as you can see, about half, or a little bit more than half of our cases deal with trash violations. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions from the members of the board for Ms. Turner? Any questions from the members of the board? Any questions from the members of the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have no public hearing scheduled for this evening, so that will carry us to mayor's business. And we have one item remaining for discussion that has not been placed on consent, and that is the consideration of approval of the revised strategic plan from the January 14th and 15th retreat of the Mayor and Board of Alderman. As I said at the time, I thought it was a very productive retreat. Discussion was good, and I thought y'all did an excellent job of working constructively through issues. What you have is the draft of the strategic plan with the changes that you proposed at that retreat plugged in. The only other change that I will make note of, the only other change that was made, I'll make note of, is item F, which was a previous item under city services. I just changed the arrangement of that so that it was a complete sentence. It still says the same thing, but we had a fragment in there before. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Just a few things. Under city services, Mr. Mayor, just going to talk to this just very briefly. And information technology department will be considered, and of course the board has already established that an analysis will be made for the need for environmental service division. This is just some language that you're going to leave. You know, we already, of course, as we know, have the sanitation environmental services department. Is there anything else that you're trying to do with that department?
No. I guess items that were already accomplished were left on the plan. And I guess until such time as so much of it is accomplished that you need a completely new plan, I think the thought is you continue working with it and progressing through the plan.
As to item F, what's your real specifics here? What's your real intent on reorganization of the planning department? And what's your destination here?
I think the overarching goal of that is to have the staff power to be able to address both our current building and development needs and our long-range planning needs. I would envision the addition of at least an additional planner who could focus on the long-range planning needs of the city. Because right now we don't have personnel that have the separate functions of dealing with building and development on a day-to-day basis and the long-range planning needs of the community.
How soon do you plan to bring this planner in, and what are some of the thoughts as to the salary for that position?
I would hope within the next couple of months that I'd have a proposal ready, maybe sooner. I haven't pinned down an exact salary, but I would envision, given the budget parameters we're working with, it would be somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000.
$30,000 and $50,000 for an assistant planner?
Yes.
Let me fast forward over to infrastructure. On item A, the Board of Alderman will pass an improved stormwater ordinance. It would seem to me that we should also focus upon other ordinances like sidewalk ordinance and not just leave this one a standalone. So I think we need to look at some major changes and rooms of exception, because I think I read in the paper that you still plan to veto that since the minutes were approved tonight. And I think there's an opinion from the Attorney General's office states that we have to wait until the minutes are approved. That's why I gave you notice of intent. So I think, part of our long-range planning, we need to look at these things that are going to make our overall city better for everybody. And of course, the stormwater ordinance that's been in the mill ever since the last board, and we need to also give emphasis on the sidewalk ordinance and other ordinances, because there are some areas that we do need to grant exceptions to the sidewalk ordinance, even though a majority, I won't say a majority, but we may not have the votes to override, but we need to give emphasis to doing something as opposed to a variance process. There's a real need in this city to have an exception to that ordinance, and the attorney said that that as long as there's a rational basis for it. So hopefully we can adopt that as part of our long-range plan if the mayor goes through with his veto on that. Now, also to item number D, a determination will be made regarding the need for reestablishment of the infrastructure committee. Okay, that's old news. Okay, so the infrastructure just hadn't met yet, but it's been reestablished. I got it.
Several of these items have been accomplished, but
okay.
are left on the plan until such time as they're scrapped or the entire plan scrapped for need of a new direction.
Okay, and one last thing on the municipal complex. The municipal complex committee will be formed among the Board of Alderman. I know the municipal complex committee has been meeting, Mr. Mayor, and since we're on there, it would be good if we can get a report to our board-approved municipal complex, so we'll know where we are on that at some point.
I agree, and I think in short order, we'll do that.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the strategic plan as revised at the board retreat of January 14th and 15th, 2011.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve of the adopting of the strategic plan as revised at the board retreat of January 14th and 15th of 2011 as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a report from the Technology Committee. Alderman Corey.
Technology Committee met in the week following the previous meeting, and the first item that we discussed was the issue concerning the IT manager. The idea being that since there was no action taken on the part of the board, the committee would go ahead and re-review the candidates to make sure that they met the qualifications for what was needed for that position. and then try to bring a recommendation to the board to see if we can move this process forward, since the city is in, of course, need to fill that position. After review of those candidates and looking at their resumes again, the committee wanted to recommend to the board the hiring of Joel Clements for that position. Of course, this is a recommendation, and I'm prepared to do so in the form of a motion, but it is, of course, up to the board as a whole to decide whether that's what it would like to do. So, that said, I would move approval of hiring Joel Clements as Information Technology Manager at a grade 16, step 4A salary with 1-year probationary period.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve of the hiring of Joel Clements as Information Technology Manager at a grade 16, step 4A salary with a 1-year probationary period. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Ball.
On this one here, I would like to support it, but I cannot, because I doesn't feel like he was the best candidate and was the most qualified candidate for this. Me, myself personally, I feel that Tim McCoy was the best candidate that gave and had the best interview then for that reason, I won't be able to support this here.
Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple observations. On that grade 16, what is that salary on that? I saw it in the packet. What's that? I can't remember. What's that salary?
Mr. Boyd.
58,087.
Okay. One further thing, just real briefly here. We had an opportunity to keep a very good person there. We allowed that opportunity to get away. And that last employee steady coming into the city on a day-to-day basis. Ms. Brewer, let me just mention this to you. I'm going to say this to you in a very friendly way, since I just talk to you. I don't just have direct communication with department heads. So in the future, let me say this respectfully. Please ensure that all of that, and you and I have had this conversation, please ensure that all the applicants who apply for the positions are interviewed. If any applicant is not interested in a position after having submitted an application, that applicant, in my opinion, needs to formally withdraw. So just for future information, let's make sure that we do those things, so that will be in our best interest. Okay? Thank you.
Further discussion. Alderman Dumas.
I guess on Alderman Perkins, Mr. Boyd, how many folks applied for this position?
I don't have the number with me, but I believe it was 38. I believe it was 38.
38?
Yes.
So in the event we interview all of those, that's a pretty lengthy process, obviously. So I think we need to look at that somehow significantly, so that we do, if in fact take the recommendation of Alderman Perkins, that we look at I don't think it's the best intent of the board to sit in here and interview 38 people.
Mr. Mayor,
Further discussion.
let me say, I'll spend some time talking to the gentleman later. My point is different from what he's saying. Ms. Brule understands. I'll discuss with him during the break. What I'm just saying is, it's not my intent either to sit here and interview 30, 20, 10 even. I don't want to interview that many. But what I am saying is, if anyone applies for the position, let's just make sure that if we think that person is a good applicant to submit to the board, and we don't get that applicant because for some reason that it's been determined that the person is not interested, then the situation is such that he's not interested unless he has withdrawn the application. So the bottom line is, without getting to a lot of discussion here, there is, at least since the gentleman raised this, there's one other applicant that we should have considered. And the reason that it was not tendered was because there was the staff thought that the person wasn't interested. but yet the person never formally withdrew the application. You know, I think the staff knows what I'm talking about. And the only reason I mention that because the gentleman from 5 said what he did. But it's never my intention to interview 30 or 25. You know, I'm fine with the process that we have. I'm just saying if there's somebody who the staff feels that should come to us, and you don't bring that person because you think that person is no longer interested, if that person has never formally withdrawn his application in this instance, then we should get that application. So the bottom line is that, Ms. Brewer, you follow me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll now move into a roll call vote on Alderman Corey's motion, which is to hire Joel Clements at a grade 16 step A salary with a 1-year probationary period. Please answer yay, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Vaughn,
Nay.
Alderman Perkins,
Nay.
Alderman Dumas,
Yay.
Alderman Corey,
Yay.
Alderman Parker,
Yay.
Alderman Sistrunk,
Yay.
Alderman Carver,
Yay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the approval of advertising for an RFQ for facilities energy performance-based contracting services. And this was another matter that the Technology Committee had some discussion about in its committee meeting. Alderman Corey, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, this is just another step in the process that we originally brought before the board when we discussed working with Honeywell to try to kind of bring some recommendations back towards the city regarding improvements that we can make to our infrastructure. You know, and so this is a RFQ based on the MDA standard. The city attorney has had a chance to review and approve it, and it's non-binding financially to the city. This is merely just to allow various companies to come bring recommendations forth to us, which will, of course, come in a further date.
Yeah, and let me just add a few comments to that. This has been an ongoing discussion, I guess, for a period of nearly a year now, and it began with Honeywell, a company in the field, introducing, at least me, I think most of our staff and board members that have dealt with this, to the idea of performance contracting. Now, obviously, Honeywell, who is a vendor, would like to, at some point, provide performance contracting services with the city of Starkville. What this is not entering into a relationship with Honeywell. Rather, it's issuing what is the standard MDA RFQ for performance contracting to see who in the field would like to make proposals as to how they might enter into a performance contract arrangement with the city. Now, there is one caveat to be added to this, and that is that the city attorney has been working on the specs of the RFQ, and one thing he's worked to ensure is that the document coming out of the gate does not favor Honeywell over other potential vendors in the field. He's still got a little bit of work left to do on that. So what he's recommended, if the board is comfortable with it, is that if the board approves this RFQ tonight, what you have in your packet is the standard MDA RFQ, that it be approved subject to changes to be approved by the Technology Committee. Changes will be minor in nature. He's just making sure that the legality of it is in order.
Since this is dealing with just the legal aspect of it, then would it not be more appropriate to have it contingent upon approval by the city attorney as opposed to approval by the Technology Committee?
No, because the form is legal. We're using the MDA form, and the only thing left to be filled in are the specific specs on the project. In other words, what does Starkville want as an itemization, kind of an exercise in this performance contract, and then you just plug in the dates and make them jive, for lack of a better word, based on when the RFQ goes out. So basically you're filling in blanks and listing what Starkville wants, and those items need to come from Starkville city staff who can best define the project. But so long as we track this form, the legality's there because it's MDA's form.
Well, that's my only question. Has Honeywell tweaked the NDA form in any way? Or is that 100% template from MDA?
This is 100% template from MDA.
Further discussion?
Well, so I've got one more question. What was Honeywell's relation in this? Were they just getting the form to us, or?
No. This has evolved over the course of a year. Originally, I guess you'll recall during the summer, Honeywell asked the city for permission to do an initial assessment, essentially to look at utility services and other aspects of energy provided by the city to determine whether they thought there was enough potential for a performance contract to be made in the city of Starkville, essentially for them to continue investing their time in such a project. They determined that there was. At that point, they had a standard RFQ that's been used in other states that they asked if the city would be interested in putting out there to receive proposals from them and other companies like them that are in similar work. Since the Mississippi Development Authority oversees performance contract relationships in Mississippi, the city attorney then began meeting with staff at the Mississippi Development Authority to determine whether that RFQ that Honeywell had given the city to review would be an acceptable format in Mississippi. MDA advised that they prefer cities use their forms. Since that time, which was probably about 6 months ago, the city attorney, MDA, and Honeywell have been working to craft an RFQ that meets the standard that MDA would like to have in the RFQ, and also encompasses all the different things that Honeywell would like to make a proposal on. That brings us to this point where the city attorney has concluded that the best way to do this really is to stick as close to the MDA form as possible, because it is MDA's oversight that would control any performance contract agreement that was ultimately reached with Honeywell or anybody for that matter. Now, they are working through some final details as to how much Honeywell suggested language so that their programs can fall under the umbrella of the RFQ can go in without upsetting the balance with MDA. Did I get that about right?
Yeah, I'll just tag that just a little bit. As the process went on, I became less and less comfortable with Honeywell being close to writing specs for the RFQ. And the specs need to come from the technology committee and let them be Starkville specs. And then Honeywell's free to bid just like everybody else is.
Further discussion. Alderman Corey.
Mayor and Board, I would move approval then of advertising for an RFQ for facilities energy performance-based contracting services, pending submission of formal specs from the Technology Committee.
All right. Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve. Let me just clarify. Are you in effect asking the Technology Committee to report the specs back to the board, or would you like to make the motion so that the board approves of the RFQ subject to changes to be added by the Technology Committee?
That's what I said, yes.
Okay. So Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve of advertising for an RFQ for facilities energy performance-based contracting services as provided, subject to changes to be made by the Technology Committee and the city attorney.
Mayor, I'm happy to read over the final product. I read over all contracts that go before the board. But I've signed off on the legality of the MDA form because it's the MDA form. I don't know whether I need to be totally vested in enumerating specs that are going to come out of the technology committee.
Okay. Subject to changes to be provided by the technology committee. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, thanks.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Any discuss? Alderman Perkins.
I'm in support of the motion. Let me just say one thing. We can direct whomever we want to do things, no disrespect to the city attorney, but the gentleman's motion is fine. If he wants the technology committee and the attorney, that's what, that's straight talk. That's his job. There was nothing legally incorrect about letting the attorney look at it. It's good for him to bless it, but I'm fine with the motion. But just for future information, if we say that we want the committee or the staff and the city attorney, that's what we want done. We don't need anybody questioning us. That's what we want to do. But no disrespect, but I just want to have some straight talk. But there's nothing wrong with the city attorney if that's what the board want to do. But I'm fine with the gentleman's motion as it is. But I just wanted to say that. So in the future, if we want the attorney to bless it, that's why we have legal assistance here. So I'm prepared to vote on the motion.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of authorizing an additional block of 40 hours with Synergetics for IT services. And I'll ask for the Chief Administrative Officer to speak to the needs of having an additional block of 40 hours.
Did we miss the magistrate?
Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all were all mouthing it to me. I just didn't know what you were mouthing. The next matter on the agenda is, in fact, the consideration of declaring, in accordance with the authority granted by Mississippi Code, Section 2119-13, that the drainage matters impacting Maple Street are a public health and safety concern. Alderman Carver, would you like to introduce?
Yes, sir. I'll introduce it and then turn it back over to the city attorney or the city engineer or however we.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
And it's forcing individuals from their homes. They've had 3 homes with this last flood, that our torrential rain, that have actually soaked carpet. Their health and safety concerns. One lady has been forced from her home, can't live in that residence, and I would appreciate the support of any and every person on this board and the mayor. We've got citizens in this town that are probably going to be impacted again tonight. And I know the city engineer's been working hard. He's drafted some plans as potential measures to mitigate flood control in there and in the retention ponds up there. But the first step was to do this declaration so that we can start working on this. And I guess turn it over to the city attorney and let him explain the legality behind what we're doing tonight.
City attorney?
The law is that the municipality cannot go on to private land to alleviate the flooding for one individual landowner, but it can go on to private land to alleviate flooding if it will benefit the public welfare and it will increase public health and safety. And so what the law says is that so long as the board spreads that on the minutes and can justify public welfare and public health and safety, then it's okay. I talked to one of the attorneys in the Attorney General office last week, and she confirmed that the word public welfare isn't defined, but problems with multiple property owners on a particular street likely suffices as something that we can hang our hat on as a benefit to public welfare.
Alderman Carver, do you have a motion?
And I'll just say that before I get into a motion here, the word public welfare, we use health, safety, and public welfare for a lot of things we do here on this board, and this is one that expect me to bring pressure on this issue over the next couple of months. I think if anybody on this board had citizens, and they're all our constituents, but we have individuals there that are literally having to gut their homes out and recarpet every time. You've seen water lines, I'm sure everybody in the media also got this. I mean, there's 3 and 4 inches of water lines. Let's try to do something for these individuals. And I think, again, to do this, the city engineer's got a pretty good plan this time. These aren't problems that we created, but we're having to deal with them. I thank you for doing the work that you've done, and hopefully we can do this. So with that, I'll move, instead of reading this, can I just say move?
You may.
Say move on item B.
Alderman Carver has moved approval of a declaration in accordance with the authority granted by Mississippi Code Section 21-1913 that the drainage matters impacting Maple Street are a public health and safety concern that establishes the need for the city to enter onto private property as necessary to alleviate such erosion and flooding so as to preserve public safety and welfare. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Parker. Alderman Carver, would you like to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Perkins.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, ever since I've been on this board for 17 and a half years, I try to show the best leadership that I can. I'm going to show leadership on this issue tonight. And the reason I rose up in my chair to speak is that this is a matter that has been going on for some extended time, and I support this. But another reason that I rose forward to address this matter is that I want the board to be respectfully reminded, and I'm not going to have a very lengthy comment on this, but I want the board to be very respectfully reminded that there are health and safety issues throughout the city. I'm going to support this motion. I'm going to support any motion that comes up for any drainage ditch or issue, wherever it may be in the city. But I'm going to likewise ask that you support matters that come up in parts of the city as well. I'm going to ask this board, that we've been talking about this Carver Drive ditch for some time, and I'm not going to try to offer an amendment or anything on that tonight, but what I want to say about it, when it comes up for discussion and for a vote, don't declare war at the table. Almost a year ago, this matter got very sensitive, very heated discussion, 4-3 vote. And the 4-3 vote was such that the board discussed it. We did 40 feet. So I want y'all to keep in mind, and I'm going to support the gentleman from 1. And I remember when the vote came up on the Carver Drive ditch, I didn't get the votes from the gentlemen from 1, 4, and 5, and hopefully we'll pick it up next time. But I do want us to move forward progressive as a city. The matter with Carver Drive been pending for at least 20 years or more, and I know we can sit here and talk about the different arguments and issues, but the only reason I said all that tonight, please be reminded that there are health, safety, and welfare issues at all these ditches throughout the city. And of course, we did tour this area, and I want the budget committee, and I want the mayor, and I want a unanimous vote on moving forward. If you don't spend a whole lot of money on Carver Drive, and I wasn't even going to say anything. I mentioned that to Ms. Rule. I wasn't even going to bring Carver Drive ditch up, but I had to say this. It laid on my heart today and yesterday just to say this, and I just want to appeal to you very fervently that when it comes up, go ahead and approve it. I mean, this is just all about the welfare, the health, and the safety of the people. If you would just do that for me, that's all I ask. I'm asking for no special treatment, no differential treatment. Just treat it the same. That's all I'm doing. So if it comes up in Ward 2 next time, 3, 4, 5, 7, I'm gonna vote for it. I'll put it on the consent agenda. And the only reason I didn't let it go on the consent tonight, because I wanted to say these things. That's all I'm saying. I'm ready to vote, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Carver's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. That will take us to...
Mayor, I don't have any. I actually be taking from consent agenda. We can vote On that matter, you asked Ms. Brewer about the Senator Jackson. I'm the one who had to remove from the consent. Nobody else have any comments. I'm ready to vote.
All right, so is that a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Perkins to authorize an additional block of 40 hours with Synergetics for its services during the department transition. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that will carry us to request for approval of the City of Starkville Fire Department claims docket.
Mayor, I'm gonna recuse myself.
We'll give Alderman Carver a moment to exit the room. Discussion.
So move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Parker to approve of the City of Starkville Fire Department claims docket as of January 28, 2011. Alderman Parker, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Parker, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
Mr. Mayor, let me say one thing, if you don't mind.
You may.
You know, Mrs. Strunk, the Vice Mayor mentioned earlier, Marquita, we are current with our minutes.
We're past current. We're ahead of the schedule.
We want to thank you and commend you for
Can
that.
I take a week off?
No, ma'am. But we thank you.
Didn't hear what she said.
All right, is that it? That exhausts the open session portion of the agenda, and there is, in my estimation anyways, nothing pressing to be discussed in executive session.
Mayor,
Alderman Corey?
I move that we stand adjourned until February 15, 2011, 5:30 at City Hall.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to, bless you, to recess until February 15th, 2011 at 4:30 at 101 Lampkin Street in the City Hall courtroom. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure passes. We stand in recess. Congratulations, Kelly.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.